The shadow that follows Cancer is not a curse but a silent companion, woven into the tides that shape its soul. It is the lingering echo of emotions unspoken, the weight of memories too sacred to release, and the reminder that sensitivity, when left unguarded, can transform into fear or retreat. Yet within this shadow lies the very material that grants Cancer its immense capacity for depth, intuition, and resilience. In astrology, the moon rules Cancer, and where there is light, there must be shadow, for the moon never reveals all of herself at once. The phases that cloak her remind Cancer that transformation is born not from perfection, but from the courage to face the unseen within. The shadow often whispers doubts, pressing Cancer to hide behind walls of protection, urging withdrawal into the shell. But this retreat is also a gift, a sacred sanctuary where inner truths can be heard with clarity. It teaches Cancer to cultivate introspection, to listen to the ebb and flow of the heart like the sea listens to the pull of the moon. The very act of hiding is not weakness but a form of sacred gestation, a preparation for emerging with greater wisdom and purpose. The shadow's pursuit is a reminder that sensitivity is not fragility but power, for it grants the ability to feel what others cannot, to perceive what lies beyond the surface, to weave compassion into every act. The shadow is the keeper of Cancer's ancestral memory, the guardian of the lineage of emotions passed through generations. It carries the stories of pain and longing, but also the strength of survival and the fire of protection. Cancer, in embracing this shadow, learns that it has inherited not chains but keys, the keys to heal not only personal wounds but also those of others. This transformative force allows the shadow to be turned into a guiding star, showing that the deepest scars are also the roots of the greatest empathy. In recognizing that vulnerability is a source of strength, Cancer becomes the nurturer who brings light into places where silence and fear once lived. There is an epic quality to the battle with the shadow, for Cancer is a warrior cloaked not in steel but in tenderness. The armor it carries is invisible, built from loyalty, love, and an unshakable instinct to protect what is sacred. The shadow attempts to convince Cancer that its emotions are burdens, but in truth they are the very weapons with which it conquers despair. Tears are not signs of defeat but rivers that cleanse the path forward, and doubts are not prisons but thresholds leading to higher awareness. When the shadow presses close, it invites Cancer to rise not through denial but through transformation, turning the tides of inner chaos into oceans of purpose. The pursuit of the shadow sharpens Cancer's awareness of cycles, teaching that endings and beginnings are never separate. Every dark night is a prelude to the dawn. Every tide that recedes will eventually return with renewed force. In this eternal rhythm, Cancer learns to trust the flow of life, to see that shadows are not enemies but companions guiding toward balance. The pursuit becomes an alliance, for without the shadow there would be no contrast, no measure of how radiant the light truly is. By embracing its shadow, Cancer awakens to its role as a lighthouse in the storm. The very fears that once caused retreat become signals of empathy, guiding others safely to shore. The doubts that once weighed heavy transform into questions that pierce illusions and reveal truth. The melancholy that lingers like mist becomes a sacred atmosphere where others can finally exhale, feeling seen and understood. Through this integration, Cancer discovers that its destiny is not to outrun the shadow but to merge with it, to let it expand the soul rather than confine it. In the epic journey of the zodiac, Cancer becomes the bridge between night and day, past and future, fragility and strength. Its shadow is the ink with which its legend is written, the contrast that allows the brilliance of its light to shine even brighter. What once seemed like a haunting presence is revealed to be an ally, one that ensures Cancer never forgets its depth, its origins, and its calling. To walk with the shadow is to claim sovereignty over the tides, to become both guardian and healer, both protector and visionary. In this union of light and shadow, Cancer discovers not limitation but boundless power, a power that transforms suffering into wisdom, solitude into sanctuary, and vulnerability into the most profound form of strength. If you're enjoying this video, don't forget to support us by subscribing, hitting the notification bell, giving it a like, and most importantly, hyping it up. This really helps us grow. Thank you so much. Leave a comment if you're enjoying the video and let me know if there's a specific topic you'd like me to cover. The shadow that trails Cancer is not simply an echo of its sensitivity, but a profound reservoir of hidden strength that shapes the destiny of this lunar sign. Where others may see heaviness or melancholy, there exists a sacred forge in which the spirit of Cancer is tested and refined. The moon's dominion over this sign means that the shadow is never static, but constantly shifting, waxing and waning in intensity, mirroring the tides of the inner ocean. This fluidity grants Cancer the extraordinary ability to adapt emotionally, to move with the currents of life, and to sense truths long before they emerge into the light. The shadow sharpens the intuitive gift, making Cancer both a sentinel of unseen forces and a keeper of emotional prophecy. The shadow also carries the power of memory in its deepest sense. Not only personal memory but collective and ancestral memory that links the individual soul to a larger cosmic story. Cancer feels the weight of history pressing against its heart. Yet within that burden lies the key to profound healing. By facing the inherited pain carried through generations, Cancer can alchemize sorrow into resilience and transform silence into voice. This capacity to draw strength from the past without being imprisoned by it makes the shadow a bridge to wisdom rather than a chain of limitation. The myths embedded in its lineage, the unspoken longings of those who came before, become luminous guides that remind Cancer of the honor in carrying the torch of emotional truth. The pursuit of the shadow awakens Cancer's role as a guardian of thresholds. Just as the crab moves between land and sea, Cancer moves between light and dark, between safety and fear, between the conscious and the subconscious. The shadow ensures that Cancer does not forget its dual nature, reminding it that it is both fragile and indestructible, both mortal in its emotions and immortal in its spirit. This duality is not a contradiction but a source of transcendence, allowing Cancer to become a healer of paradoxes. By embracing its shadow, Cancer becomes capable of holding space for others in their own moments of contradiction, offering sanctuary in the midst of uncertainty. The shadow also sharpens the protective instinct that defines Cancer's essence. What might seem like hypersensitivity or withdrawal is, in truth, a form of sacred guardianship. The shadow teaches Cancer when to shield, when to retreat, and when to emerge with unyielding strength. It transforms vulnerability into a fortress of compassion, not by building walls against the world, but by creating safe harbors where truth and tenderness can survive the storms. In this way, the shadow is not the enemy of Cancer's light but its ally, training it to use intuition as a weapon and empathy as armor. There is a hidden grandeur in the shadow's presence, for it pushes Cancer toward emotional mastery. Each confrontation with fear or doubt is a trial by water, a test of whether the tides will sweep the soul into despair or carry it toward illumination. Cancer learns through this dance with the shadow that mastery is not about conquering emotion but about navigating it with wisdom. Just as the moon governs the oceans without owning them, Cancer learns to guide its feelings without being drowned by them. This is a form of rulership that is subtle yet immensely powerful, a sovereignty of the inner world that rivals the greatest empires of the outer one. In the cosmic theater, the shadow is the backdrop that makes Cancer's story epic. Without it, there would be no contrast, no heroic arc of struggle and triumph. The shadow is the storm that proves the lighthouse's worth, the night sky that reveals the brilliance of the stars. By walking hand in hand with the shadow, Cancer embodies the eternal truth that light is not the absence of darkness but its transformation. The shadow becomes the silent proof of Cancer's courage, the quiet reminder that even the most tender heart can withstand the weight of the oceans and still rise with the tide. Through this journey, Cancer becomes a testament to the strength of the unseen, the power of the hidden, and the glory of embracing what others fear. The shadow ceases to be a pursuer and becomes a companion, ensuring that Cancer never forgets the depth of its own waters. It is through this partnership that Cancer fulfills its destiny as both protector and healer, as both bearer of sorrow and bringer of hope. The epic lies not in escaping the shadow but in recognizing it as the very force that awakens the brilliance of the soul, proving that within the depths of darkness resides the seed of the most radiant light. The shadow that follows Cancer also acts as a mirror, reflecting not only the unacknowledged fears, but also the unclaimed power that rests beneath the surface. It reveals the secret truth that sensitivity is a form of sovereignty over realms that others cannot access. Where fire signs blaze through action and air signs rule through intellect, Cancer reigns in the unseen dimension of feeling, a dominion often dismissed yet indispensable for the balance of the cosmos. The shadow reminds Cancer that the very tides it sometimes drowns in are also the tides that cleanse, renew, and shape worlds. In learning to navigate these waves, Cancer becomes the archetype of emotional mastery, an alchemist who turns heaviness into strength and uncertainty into faith. The lunar shadow teaches that silence has its own sacred voice. Many times, Cancer retreats inward not to escape but to listen, to tune into vibrations that others cannot detect. The shadow deepens this capacity, pushing Cancer towards stillness until the whisper of the soul is unmistakable. In these hidden realms, clarity emerges like a pearl formed in darkness, born from pressure and patience. What the shadow cultivates in secret eventually shines as guidance for others. For Cancer's wisdom often comes not in thunder, but in the gentle radiance of quiet truths that outlast storms. This ability to find light within silence makes Cancer a bearer of subtle yet eternal revelations. The presence of the shadow also strengthens Cancer's connection to the cycles of death and rebirth. Just as the moon wanes into darkness before it waxes full again, Cancer must learn to embrace endings as preludes to new beginnings. The shadow makes this lesson unavoidable, pulling Cancer into the depths where loss, change, and transformation dwell. Yet in those depths lies the seed of rebirth, and Cancer, through its emotional courage, emerges renewed, carrying within it the wisdom of cycles that never truly end. The shadow therefore becomes a teacher of immortality, reminding Cancer that nothing is ever completely lost, only reshaped, reborn, or returned in another form. The shadow amplifies the protective fire that burns within Cancer's soul. What may appear as overprotection or clinging is in truth a sacred vow to safeguard the essence of life, whether that be loved ones, ideals, or the fragile truths that others overlook. This instinct, when refined through the lessons of the shadow, transforms from fear-based attachment into fierce guardianship. Cancer becomes a shield not only for the vulnerable but also for the light itself, carrying the eternal role of the sentinel who ensures that hope is never extinguished. The shadow's trials sharpen this instinct, teaching Cancer the difference between imprisoning what it loves out of fear and protecting what it loves out of honor. The pursuit of the shadow also awakens Cancer's power as a creator of sanctuary. While other signs may seek conquest in outer worlds, Cancer builds inner kingdoms where hearts can rest and souls can heal. The shadow often drives Cancer inward, yet this inward journey cultivates the sacred space from which nurturing flows. In transforming its private sanctuaries into places of strength rather than hiding places of fear, Cancer fulfills its lunar destiny as the builder of emotional temples. These are not temples of stone but of trust, compassion, and presence, where even the most broken spirit can find refuge. The shadow ensures that Cancer never forgets this mission, reminding it that the world's chaos can only be balanced when there are keepers of peace and guardians of the inner flame. The shadow also awakens Cancer's heroic role in the greater zodiacal myth. Every sign carries a trial, and for Cancer, the battle is not with external enemies but with the illusions that dwell within. The fear of abandonment, the weight of unhealed memories, the temptation to remain in retreat. By confronting these inner forces, Cancer proves that the greatest wars are fought in silence and the most radiant victories are born in the heart. The shadow is the battlefield, but also the ally, for it trains Cancer to wield compassion as a sword and intuition as a shield. When these qualities are mastered, Cancer rises not as the fragile dreamer but as the indomitable guardian of the human soul. Ultimately, the shadow reveals that Cancer's destiny is not to eliminate darkness, but to embody the eternal rhythm between shadow and light. Just as the moon does not resist its phases, Cancer learns to accept the tides of its own nature. In this acceptance lies transcendence, for Cancer shows the world that the presence of shadow is not a flaw but a source of wholeness. The epic of Cancer is written in water and moonlight, in the courage to embrace what others deny, and in the power to transform pain into sanctuary. The shadow that once seemed a pursuer is revealed as a guide, ensuring that Cancer never forgets the depth of its waters and the brilliance of its light. Through this eternal partnership, Cancer fulfills its role as both healer and protector, carrying within its soul the luminous truth that even the darkest night is woven with the promise of dawn. The shadow that walks beside Cancer is also the force that awakens its hidden leadership, a form of guidance not born from command, but from the magnetic pull of emotional gravity. While others lead by fire or reason, Cancer leads by presence, by the unshakable certainty that all storms can be endured and all hearts can be restored. The shadow ensures that Cancer is tested in silence before it stands in light, teaching that true authority is born not from domination but from the ability to hold the weight of another's soul without collapsing. Through this unseen apprenticeship, Cancer becomes a leader of tides, a silent general in the battle for hope. The shadow is also the guardian of dreams, for Cancer is one of the signs most attuned to the language of the subconscious. Night after night, the moon's children travel through hidden landscapes where fears and visions intertwine. The shadow lingers here, not as an enemy, but as a guide, offering images and symbols that point to truths the waking mind resists. In learning to read these signs, Cancer discovers that the shadow speaks in riddles that can unlock the path forward. This power to move between waking life and dream life is not mere escapism but a heroic gift, granting access to wells of creativity, intuition, and prophecy that allow Cancer to weave visions into reality. The shadow strengthens Cancer's relationship with time, for it often makes the past resurface, carrying memories both sweet and heavy. At first this may feel like a burden, yet in truth it awakens an understanding of continuity, showing that nothing exists in isolation. Past, present, and future are threads woven into one tapestry, and Cancer, guided by the shadow, becomes a keeper of this fabric. The sign learns that the past is not a prison but a reservoir, that the future is not a source of anxiety but a promise, and that the present is a bridge where all forces converge. In embracing this, Cancer claims its role as a guardian of the eternal cycle, reminding others that no experience is wasted, for all of it contributes to the soul's evolution. The shadow also awakens the profound courage hidden within Cancer's seeming gentleness. While it may appear to retreat or hesitate, this sign carries within it the spirit of a warrior disguised in water. The shadow tests this warrior spirit, pressing Cancer to confront fears of loss, abandonment, or rejection. Each confrontation is a battle not of destruction but of endurance, and each victory strengthens an inner armor made not of steel but of empathy. This is a form of courage that few recognize, for it is not loud or boastful. It is the quiet bravery of rising again after being swept under by waves, the unyielding determination to keep loving even after heartbreak, the refusal to let despair silence the song of the soul. The shadow draws out Cancer's role as a guardian of mystery. This sign is tied not only to the tides but also to the thresholds of existence. The beginnings of life, the passages of death, the liminal spaces where transformation unfolds. The shadow reminds Cancer of its kinship with these sacred gates, teaching that it holds wisdom not only about nurturing life, but also about guiding souls through endings. This awareness grants Cancer an epic dimension, for it reveals that its nurturing is not sentimental but cosmic. Cancer becomes the archetypal mother, protector, and guide across all thresholds, reminding the world that endings are not annihilations but transitions, and that every descent into darkness carries within it the promise of emergence. The pursuit of the shadow teaches Cancer that it is not meant to live only for itself. Its deepest fulfillment arises when its personal trials become beacons for others, when its own healing becomes a map for those still wandering. The shadow ensures that Cancer cannot hoard its wisdom, for the struggles it faces are not merely personal but archetypal, destined to serve a collective purpose. In embracing this, Cancer's journey becomes legendary, for it transforms private wounds into universal medicine. What once felt like isolation becomes a sacred calling, and the shadow is the force that ensures this calling is never abandoned. Through its partnership with the shadow, Cancer becomes not just a guardian of hearts, but a keeper of destiny. It learns that shadow is not an interruption of its lunar light, but an extension of it. For the moon herself would lose her mystery if she only shone in fullness. The waxing and waning, the shifting and the hiding, the play of concealment and revelation. These are the very rhythms that make Cancer eternal. By accepting the shadow as part of its essence, Cancer rises to its true stature, a celestial force that carries within it both night and dawn, both silence and song, both the fragility of a tear and the immensity of the sea. In this, its story becomes epic, its path becomes luminous, and its shadow becomes the very proof of its greatness.